Another Vancouver development has gone into foreclosure. It's one of the most shocking bankruptcies that I've seen in years. The presale market is historically slow, the inventory keeps on piling on, and Vancouver developers are getting so desperate they're actually writing open letters to the government hoping for a bailout. There's a lot for us to cover in today's video. Let's start by talking about Chloe, the four-story luxury development in Kerrisdale that has gone into foreclosure. This building was inspired by architecture of Paris and is supposed to be this boutique building with 46 condo units and 11 retail units. In 2021, at the peak of real estate market, this building was selling to buyers for around $2,100 per square foot. Just to give you an idea, a 1,000 square foot condo, that's usually a 2-bedroom condo, would cost over $2 million. According to the court documents, the developer behind this project owes over $93 million to their creditors, and currently the project is involved in foreclosure type proceedings. Now, here's where the story gets crazy and why I said this is one of the most shocking bankruptcies that I have seen in a while. Usually when developments go bankrupt, they're either in the very early stages of pre-sales and they couldn't get enough funding to start the construction, or they have ran out of money halfway through the construction process. This building is different because it is completed, and it's completed about a year ago. But currently it is sitting pretty much empty without any people living there. According to the documents, some of the buyers have tried to back out of their contracts. A lot of buyers did not complete on their purchases, and that is part of the reason why the building went into this foreclosure and how they got into the trouble in the first place. Now, there's currently one listing for sale in this building. The asking price is just under $1.4 million. In other words, about $1,500 per square foot. A pretty big difference between $1,500 per square foot and the $2,100 per square foot that the buyers originally paid when they bought these units. The story gets even worse and more interesting because according to court documents, one of the buyers have paid $880,000 directly to the developer, not into the trust account, which is sort of strange. And currently we don't have too many details on this story, but if anything interesting comes up, I'll try to keep you updated on this YouTube channel. Of course, subscribe so you don't miss those videos in the future. Now, paying the deposit directly to the developer and not into the lawyer's trust account is sort of unheard of. It's not how real estate deals are done. Usually when you buy a pre-sale, all the deposits are held within the developers or the brokerage that's representing the developer into their lawyer's accounts until the completion date, so the developer doesn't get this money directly. That way the buyer's money is always protected in case the developer tries to flee the project halfway through or declare bankruptcy. And that's not even the end of bad news for this development, because again, according to the court documents, there have been some side deals where allegedly some units that have been already pre-sold now were resold to third parties at a lower price point, and the purchasers had to pay for those units directly to the developer. Once again, just like I explained, the money always goes into the trust account. Having to pay the developer directly is very sketchy, to say the least. Currently, the lenders behind this project are petitioning the court for a receivership of 24 residential units and 11 commercial units in order to sell them to recoup some of their losses. And according to the lenders themselves, they're not expecting to recoup full $93 million. So they are very likely to be in red, and in a red by a big margin. Now, of course, a story like this is bad news for lenders because they're going to lose a bunch of money. It's also pretty bad news for people that already purchased and completed on the units. The story doesn't go into detail how many people actually already sort of completed on their units, because remember, this is absolutely finished building about a year ago. So a lot of people, the ones that didn't back out of their deals, are currently already completing on these units or have completed on the units. And if the units are now selling at $1,500 per square foot, and likely they're going to sell for a lot less, because when you have 24 units come onto the market all at once, you have to sell them at a lower price. You have to give some sort of discount in order to actually move these units. So maybe they're going to be selling at $1,300 per square foot. I guess time will tell. Well, nevertheless, the buyers that have purchased these units at $2,100 per square foot, yeah, they're not going to be happy at all because it will take many, many years to recoup their losses, if ever. This Chloe development is not alone. Just a few weeks ago, I talked about the CURV and how that development went into bankruptcy. It was supposed to be the world's tallest passive house, and now it's facing foreclosure. There are some similarities between the two projects. Both of them have been focused on the luxury market. However, the two are very different because the CURV was in the pre-sale stages. They just couldn't get enough interest in their units, including their $60 million penthouse. This building, as I said, was already completed, which is very rare and unique. Needless to say, the developers are on the ropes. They're really swinging and trying to get anything they can, including the removal of the foreign buyer ban. Just last week, they wrote an open letter signed by 25 of the biggest developers in Vancouver and in Canada, petitioning the government to essentially get rid of the foreign buyers ban for the new construction industry. They're talking about exactly what we're talking about in this video: developments going into bankruptcies, developers really struggling, the 50% drop year over year in the new starts for housing, as well as only one 100 unit plus building being launched in 2025. Essentially, they're really struggling, and they're asking for a similar foreign buyer model as in Australia, where foreign buyers are not allowed to buy resale units, but they can buy new construction units in order to sort of boost up the sales and in order to preserve those construction jobs. Now, of course, this idea was not very favorable with the government or the people here in Vancouver. It's like asking my dog if he wants his snacks to be left unguarded just out and about. Of course, they're going to say yes, and that's exactly what the developers want. They just want the ban to go away for their product specifically to help them, which is just ridiculous. It is not going to work, and I'm glad that the government is really sort of shutting down this idea. Then a few days later, there was another letter. This one got a little bit less attention, where they're talking about a little bit more nuance, where the foreign buyer ban would be lifted, but it would require that purchaser, the foreign purchaser, to keep the unit rented out for 5 years, after which, I don't know what would happen, but essentially trying to sort of give you a slightly different idea behind the removal of this foreign buyer ban, trying to sort of sweeten the deal, saying things like, well, now we will get more rentals in the market because these foreign buyers would have to rent out to locals. But we all know that this is not going to work. The foreign buyer ban clearly is really destroying a big chunk of business for these developers. Some of what they're saying is true. Yes, we will likely see a shortage of new housing moving forward because a lot of developers right now are less likely to take risks on new projects. They're also, of course, learning from projects like the CURV and like Chloe and many others that have gone into bankruptcies, and any developer is looking at that as a bit of a cautionary tale, which I think will carry on consequences for many years to come. On the other hand, the slowdown in the presale market did drive the prices down quite a bit. The developers are a lot more willing to come to a negotiating table if they get a buyer through the door. On top of that, we have a record level of new rental inventory coming to the market, which also drove the prices down. So in a lot of ways, this has been a positive for the market. Time will tell how all of this unfolds and how long it will take for the pre-sales industry to recover. I'll do my best to keep you updated on this YouTube channel with my weekly videos. Please subscribe so you don't miss those videos when they do come out. Also give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. That helps quite a bit. If you need real estate help or advice here in Greater Vancouver, feel free to reach out. My contact information is below. Thanks for watching this one, and we'll see you next time. Bye.